Hi, I'm Valentina. I'm a 32-year-old financial analyst working in Boston. I bought my first apartment at 28, something I was incredibly proud of. It wasn't huge, just a cozy one-bedroom in a neighborhood I loved, but it was mine. Every mortgage payment I made felt like proof that I'd made it, that I didn't need anyone's help, that I could stand on my own 2 feet. But last Tuesday, my parents called me, and they were laughing. At first, I thought maybe they'd won something. Maybe Dad finally hit it big on one of those scratch-off tickets he's always buying. But then Mom's voice came through the speaker, high-pitched and gleeful. "Thanks for the wedding present!" I froze. I was standing in my office, staring at spreadsheets, and suddenly nothing made sense. "What wedding present?" I asked slowly. "Oh, don't play coy," Dad chimed in. "The apartment. We got such a good price for it. Camilla's wedding is going to be absolutely perfect now." My heart stopped. "What apartment?" "Your apartment, sweetie," Mom said, like she was telling me about a surprise birthday party. "We sold it last week. The closing was yesterday. We got $100,000 for it. Can you believe that? It's like you were saving it for your sister's special day all along." I couldn't breathe. I actually had to sit down. My apartment. The apartment I bought. The one I worked overtime for. The one I scrimped and saved and sacrificed for. Gone. You sold my apartment? My voice came out as a whisper. "Well, technically it was in our name too, remember?" Dad said. "You put us on the deed for tax purposes. So really, it was a family decision." That was a lie. I'd never put them on the deed. But I couldn't even process that yet. "You didn't ask me," I said. "Oh, honey, don't be so dramatic," Mom said, and I could practically see her waving her hand dismissively. "Family helps family. Your sister deserves her dream wedding. She's only getting married once." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. Instead, I smiled. A cold, calm smile that nobody on that phone call could see. "You should check your mail," I said quietly. "What?" Dad asked. "Check. Your mail." I hung up. Before we continue, if you've ever had your family take something from you without asking, hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to see how this ends. I promise, by the end of this story, justice will be served. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. 17, all from my parents. I ignored every single one. Instead, I made myself coffee, sat down at my kitchen table in my new apartment. Yes, I already had another place, but we'll get to that. And I waited. Finally, around 9 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, I answered. "Valentina!" Mom's voice was shrill, panicked. "What did you do?" "Good morning to you too, Mom." "Don't you dare good morning me. We just got a foreclosure notice. It says we owe $127,000 and we have 30 days to pay or we lose the house." I took a sip of my coffee. "That sounds stressful." "Stressful? Valentina, this is our home. There must be some mistake. We've never missed a payment." "Actually," I said calmly, "you've missed every payment for the last 3 years because I've been making them. And as of last Tuesday when you sold my apartment without my permission, I stopped." Silence. Then Dad's voice, low and dangerous. "You wouldn't." "I already did. The notice was sent Monday. You should have received it yesterday. Oh, and by the way, I had a very interesting conversation with my lawyer. Turns out you committed fraud when you forged my signature to put yourselves on my apartment deed. That's a felony. But don't worry, I'm not pressing charges. Yet. You ungrateful—" I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage, from years and years of swallowing my anger, of being the good daughter, of giving and giving and giving until there was nothing left. Not anymore. Within an hour, I had text messages from my sister, lots of them. "What is wrong with you?" "You're ruining my wedding." "Mom is crying because of you." "Stop being so jealous and selfish." "Not everything is about you, Valentina." I blocked her number. Then I blocked my parents' numbers too. And then I poured myself another cup of coffee and got ready for work. That evening, I got a call from my Aunt Rosa. She's my mom's sister, and we've always been close. Well, as close as you can be when you're the family scapegoat. Valentina, mija, what's going on? Her voice was gentle, concerned. Your mother called me in tears. Did she tell you what she did? I asked. She said there was a misunderstanding about your apartment. I laughed. Actually laughed. A misunderstanding? That's what we're calling fraud now? Fraud? Aunt Rosa sounded genuinely shocked. So I told her everything. The apartment sale, the forged deed, the 3 years of mortgage payments I'd made on my parents' house. Payments they never knew about because they thought the bank had mysteriously stopped sending bills. The $87,000 I'd given them over 5 years for emergencies that never seemed to end. Dios mío, Aunt Rosa whispered. I had no idea. Nobody did. That's how they wanted it. Keep me isolated. Keep me guilty. Keep me paying. What are you going to do? I'm going to let them face the consequences of their choices. For once. Valentina, that's your family. No, Aunt Rosa. Family doesn't steal from you. Family doesn't forge your signature. Family doesn't sell your home to fund a party. What they did to me? That's not family, that's exploitation. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the day I bought my apartment. I was 28. I'd been working 70-hour weeks for 2 years, saving every penny. I'd skipped vacations, eaten ramen for dinner more times than I could count, and said no to so many brunches and happy hours with friends. But when I got those keys, when I stood in that empty living room and knew it was mine, really mine, I cried. Happy tears, proud tears. I took a selfie with the keys. Just me, alone in my new place, grinning like an idiot. I sent the photo to my parents, excited to share the news. Mom's response, why do you need your own place? Are you abandoning the family? Dad's response, must be nice to have money to throw away while we struggle. Camilla's response, wow, flex much? That should have been my first clue, but I ignored it. I ignored a lot of things, like the first time they asked to borrow money. Just $5,000, sweetie? Just this once. Medical emergency. I sent it immediately. They never paid it back. When I asked about it months later, Mom said, oh, honey, family doesn't keep score. Or the time Dad called at 2 a.m. The roof is leaking. We need $10,000 for repairs. Tonight. I wired it before sunrise. Later, I drove by their house. The roof looked fine. Brand new, actually. Later, I'd learned they'd used my money for a vacation to Cancun. Then, there was Camilla's car. She needs something reliable for college, Mom explained. You're working, you can help. It's only $15,000. Only. That word, as if $15,000 wasn't 5 months of my salary after taxes. But I sent it, because that's what good daughters do, right? They help, they sacrifice, they put family first. Except my family never put me first, not once. I got out of bed and walked to my closet. In the back, in a shoebox, I kept my old keys. Keys to places I'd lived, keys to old lockers, keys that didn't open anything anymore. And there, at the bottom, was the key to my first apartment. Silver, with a little tag I'd engraved myself. V's first home. I held it in my hand, feeling its weight. This key didn't open anything anymore. That apartment was gone, sold out from under me by the people who were supposed to protect me. But holding it reminded me of something important. I did it once. I built a life for myself once. I could do it again, and this time, nobody could take it from me. Because this time, I knew the truth. I'd learned it the hard way. The people who raised me didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a resource. An ATM with a heartbeat, and I was done making withdrawals on my own life to fund theirs. I put the key back in the box, but I kept it out where I could see it. A reminder, not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd built, and what I'd build again. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. I'd been blocked from the family group chat, not that I minded, and my phone stayed silent. Part of me wondered if they were planning something. Another part of me didn't care anymore. I focused on work, on my new apartment, on rebuilding. I'd already been living in a different place for 6 months. See, I'd bought my second apartment last year, a bigger one, planning to rent out the first. But my parents didn't know that. They didn't know a lot of things, like the fact that for the past 3 years I'd been the one paying their mortgage. How did that happen? Let me take you back. 3 years ago, Dad called me. "The bank made a mistake," he said. "They're saying we're behind on payments, but we're not. We sent everything on time. There's going to be a foreclosure if we don't pay $34,000 immediately." I panicked. I liquidated investments. I borrowed from my 401k. I sent the money that day. A week later, Dad called again. Crisis averted, the bank apologized. It was their error after all. Except it wasn't an error. I found out later, much later, that they'd stopped paying their mortgage 6 months earlier. They'd gambled on me bailing them out. And I did. But here's the thing they didn't know. When I paid that $34,000, I didn't just hand it over. I paid it directly to the bank. And I made a deal with them. If my parents missed another payment, the bank would notify me first. And I'd have the option to continue paying in exchange for a legal claim on the property. My parents never made another mortgage payment. Not one. For 3 years, I paid their mortgage. $2,847 every single month. That's $102,492 over 3 years. Combined with the initial $34,000, I'd paid $136,392 on their house. And legally, I owned it. They just didn't know yet. When they sold my apartment, they triggered a clause in the agreement I'd made with their mortgage company. If they sold assets without my knowledge while I was covering their debts, I could call in the full amount owed. With interest. That's what the foreclosure notice was. It wasn't their bank demanding payment. It was me. I'd tried to protect them. Even after everything, I'd tried. I kept paying. I kept silent. I kept being the good daughter until they sold my home and laughed about it. Now they'd learn what it felt like to lose everything. On Friday, 1 week after they sold my apartment, I got an email from someone I hadn't heard from in years, my old roommate from college, Paula. She'd become a real estate attorney. We'd reconnected a few months ago at a conference, and when I told her everything that had been happening with my family, she'd offered to help. "Valentina," her email read, "the deed transfer on your old apartment went through. Your parents officially received $98,500 after fees and commission. According to records I pulled, they paid $75,000 toward your sister's wedding venue yesterday and another $15,000 to a catering company this morning. I have all the documentation you need if you decide to move forward with legal action. Call me." I stared at the screen. $98,500. Money from the apartment I'd bought with my own sweat and tears. Money they'd stolen, and they'd already spent most of it on a party. A party I wasn't even invited to help plan. A party for a sister who'd sent me 12 text messages calling me selfish and jealous before I blocked her. I called Paula. "I want to move forward," I said. "All the way." "Are you sure?" she asked gently. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Your family will know everything." They should have thought about that before they committed fraud. "Okay," Paula said. "Then let's make sure they understand exactly what they've done. Camila's wedding is in 6 weeks, right?" "Yes." "Perfect. We'll serve them the papers at the wedding." I should have felt guilty. I should have felt conflicted, but all I felt was tired. Tired of being used. Tired of being dismissed. Tired of sacrificing myself for people who saw me as nothing more than a wallet. "Do it," I said. Over the next few weeks, I did something I'd never done before. I went through everything. Every bank statement, every email, every text message I'd ever received from my parents asking for money. I sat at my dining room table with my laptop, a printer, and 3 highlighters, yellow for loans they never repaid, pink for emergencies that turned out to be luxuries, and green for outright lies. By the end of the first night, I'd used up an entire yellow highlighter. The numbers were staggering. In 5 years, I'd given my parents $87,000. Not loaned, given. Because every time I'd asked about repayment, I'd gotten the same response. "Family doesn't keep score, Valentina. Don't be so transactional." But here's what that $87,000 actually paid for: $5,000 for emergency medical bills. They went to Cancun 2 weeks later. I saw the photos on Facebook. $10,000 for urgent roof repairs. The roof was fine. They remodeled the kitchen instead. $8,000 for property taxes. They bought a boat they used twice before selling it at a loss. $15,000 for Camilla's reliable college car. She got a brand new BMW. I was driving a 10-year-old Honda. $12,000 for funeral expenses when my grandmother died. The funeral cost $4,000. The rest went to a vacation they took to process their grief in Hawaii. The list went on and on, each entry highlighted in yellow, screaming the same truth. I'd been funding their lifestyle for years while barely scraping by myself. I printed everything: 347 pages of bank statements, emails, and text messages. I organized them chronologically in a black binder with labeled tabs. Evidence. Then I pulled up their mortgage records, the ones I had legal access to since I'd been paying their bills. They'd taken out their original mortgage in 1995 for $180,000. By 2020, they should have had it nearly paid off. Instead, they'd refinanced 4 times. Each time, they'd pulled out equity and spent it. By the time I started paying 3 years ago, they owed $287,000 on a house that was worth $320,000, and they'd told everyone, including me, that they'd almost paid it off, that they were fiscally responsible, that they were teaching us the value of hard work and sacrifice. I laughed out loud, actually laughed, alone in my apartment at midnight, looking at these numbers. The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking audacity. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Camila. I'm texting from Jake's phone since you blocked me. We need to talk." Jake, her fiancé, the man she'd been dating for 11 months before he proposed, the man whose family was apparently paying for the other half of this $100,000 wedding. I didn't respond. Another text. "Mom and Dad are really stressed. Like, really stressed. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Do you want him to have a heart attack?" Ah, yes, the classic guilt trip. Make me responsible for Dad's health because he's stressed about the consequences of his own actions. I still didn't respond. You're being incredibly selfish. This is my wedding, the most important day of my life. Can't you just let this go? For me? I stared at that message for a long time. The most important day of her life. More important than honesty. More important than basic human decency. More important than the fact that her wedding was being funded by stolen money. I typed, "They sold my home without my permission to pay for your party. And you think I'm the selfish one?" I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. "They said you agreed to it." My hands started shaking. They lied. Why would they lie? Ask them about the $87,000 I gave them over the past 5 years. Ask them about the mortgage payments I've been making for 3 years. Ask them how they've been living beyond their means while telling everyone they're broke. Then ask yourself why they'd lie. The dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then nothing. She didn't respond. Good. Let her sit with that. The next morning, I got a call from Paula. "They hired a lawyer," she said without preamble. "Already?" "A cheap one. I looked him up. He mostly handles DUIs and small claims court. He sent me a letter demanding we cease and desist with our harassment and fraudulent claims." "Fraudulent claims?" I almost laughed. "I have literally 300 pages of documentation." "I know. I sent him a very polite reply with copies of the deed fraud, the mortgage payment records, and the bank statements showing your transfers. I also included the recording." "Oh, right, the recording. I'd forgotten about that. 2 months ago, I'd called my parents to ask, again, about the money I'd loaned them. Mom had been particularly dismissive. "Oh, honey, just keep sending money when we need it. That's what family does. You don't need that apartment anyway. You should sell it and help us more." I'd recorded the call. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. Perfectly legal. And now their lawyer had a copy of my mother explicitly telling me to sell my apartment to give them more money. What did he say? I asked. Nothing yet. But I expect we'll hear from them soon. How are you holding up? Honestly, I felt lighter than I had in years. I'm good. Really good. No regrets? I thought about that. Did I regret confronting my parents? Did I regret exposing the truth? Did I regret finally standing up for myself after years of being treated like a bank account? Not even a little, I said. Good. Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. When people like your parents get cornered, they lash out. Hard. She was right. That afternoon, I started getting messages from extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them had the same basic theme. How could you do this to your parents? Don't you care about family? You're breaking your mother's heart. Your father might have a heart attack. Poor Camilla's wedding is ruined. Not one of them asked for my side of the story. Not one. Except Aunt Rosa. She called me that evening. Mija, I just got off the phone with your mother. She's telling everyone you've stolen their house. That's not what happened. I know, but the family doesn't. They're hearing her version, and you know how she is. I did know. Mom had always been good at playing the victim, at rewriting history to suit her narrative, at making herself the martyr in every situation. What do you think I should do? I asked. Tell the truth, all of it, to everyone. Don't let her control the story. So I did. I wrote an email, a long one. I attached scanned copies of every piece of evidence, the bank statements, the forged deed, the mortgage records, the text messages, everything. I sent it to every family member whose email I had, 37 people in total. The subject line, the truth about my parents' foreclosure. Within an hour, I had responses. A lot of them. Some were supportive. I had no idea. I'm so sorry this happened to you. That's awful. But more were defensive. You shouldn't air family business publicly. This is between you and your parents. You're embarrassing the whole family. One cousin wrote, even if everything you're saying is true, you're still wrong to do this. Family forgives. I wrote back, family doesn't steal from you. What they did isn't a mistake to forgive. It's a crime. He didn't respond. My uncle, Dad's brother, called me. Your father is a good man. He made some mistakes, sure, but you're destroying him over money. Money. Is that really more important than family? He forged my signature and sold my home, I said calmly. That's not a mistake. That's fraud. He's your father. And I'm his daughter. But apparently that didn't matter when he stole from me. He hung up on me. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about what everyone was saying, that I was wrong, that I was cruel, that I should forgive and forget and move on. And part of me wondered, were they right? Was I taking this too far? Then I remembered the phone call, the laughter. Thanks for the wedding present! Like it was funny, like my years of work, my sacrifice, my home, like it was all a joke. No, I wasn't wrong. They were. I got up and opened the shoebox again, the silver key with V's first home engraved on it. I'd bought that apartment when I was 28. 4 years of my life, gone in a single fraudulent transaction. But that key represented something bigger than the apartment. It represented the moment I'd proven to myself that I could make it on my own, that I didn't need anyone to take care of me. My parents had taken the apartment, but they couldn't take that knowledge away. I'd done it once. I was doing it again, and this time I was doing it without them draining me dry. I put the key on my nightstand where I could see it every morning when I woke up. A reminder. I survived before. I'll survive now. The weeks crawled by. My parents' lawyer sent 2 more threatening letters. Paula responded to both with increasing amounts of documentation. Eventually, he stopped responding. I suspected he'd figured out his clients had lied to him about everything and he wanted nothing to do with the case. 3 days before the wedding, Camila tried one more time. She showed up at my office. Security called me. There's a Camila Rodriguez here to see you. She says she's your sister. I almost said to turn her away, but curiosity got the better of me. Send her up. She looked terrible. Her hair was stringy, her eyes were red and puffy. Her engagement ring, a massive diamond that probably cost more than my car, looked too heavy on her thin finger. "Can we talk?" she asked. I led her to a conference room, closed the door, sat down across from her. "I didn't know," she said immediately, "about any of it, about your apartment, about the money you'd given them, about the mortgage. They told me you'd agreed to help, that it was your gift to me." "Did you really believe that?" I asked. "Did you really think I'd give you $100,000 after you spent years treating me like garbage?" She flinched. "I never treated you like garbage." "Camila, when I bought my first apartment, you said I was flexing. When I got promoted, you said I was a workaholic with no life. When I couldn't come to your birthday dinner because I was working, you posted on social media that I was a fake sister. You've spent years resenting every good thing that happened to me." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You were always better than me, at everything, school, work, money. I was jealous. So you let Mom and Dad steal from me to fund your perfect wedding. I didn't know it was stealing. I swear, Valentina, if I'd known..." She covered her face with her hands. "Jake wants to call off the wedding. His parents found out about the foreclosure, about the fraud charges you could file, and they're furious. They're talking about pulling out of the wedding entirely." Good, I thought. Out loud, I said, "What do you want me to do about it?" "Drop the foreclosure. Please. I'll pay you back. I'll get a job. I'll work overtime. I'll do whatever it takes. Just, please don't ruin my wedding." I looked at my little sister, 26 years old, never worked a full-time job in her life, living in an apartment Mom and Dad paid for while she figured things out. Driving a car I'd unknowingly helped buy. "How much is your wedding dress?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "Your wedding dress. How much did it cost?" $4,000. But that's more than I spent on rent for 6 months when I first moved out. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for a year to save up for my apartment down payment. I worked 70-hour weeks. I said no to trips, to dinners, to fun because I had a goal. And you know what Mom and Dad said when I bought that place? They asked why I was abandoning the family. "Valentina, you want me to drop the foreclosure so you can have your perfect day, but where were you when I needed family? Where were you when they were stealing from me? You didn't care then. You only care now because it affects you." She was sobbing openly now. "Please, I'm begging you. I love Jake. I want to marry him. Don't take that away from me." "I'm not taking anything from you. Mom and Dad did. They stole from me to pay for your wedding. If you want to be angry at someone, be angry at them." She stood up, shaking. "You're heartless." "No," I said quietly. "I'm just done being a doormat." She left without another word. The wedding was on a Saturday. Paula and I arrived 30 minutes after the ceremony started. We sat in the back of the venue, a gorgeous ballroom with crystal chandeliers and flower arrangements that probably cost more than my monthly salary. The ceremony was beautiful, I had to admit. Camilla looked stunning in her $4,000 dress. Jake looked nervous, but happy. And my parents sat in the front row, beaming like they'd paid for all of this themselves. When the ceremony ended and cocktail hour began, I approached them. Paula stayed a few steps behind me, professional and intimidating in her navy suit. "Valentina?" Mom's face went pale. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to deliver a gift," I said calmly. I pulled a large manila envelope from my bag. "Ah, this is for you." Dad's hands shook as he opened it. Inside were 3 documents. The complete record of the $136,492 I'd paid on their mortgage. The legal documentation proving they'd forged my signature on my apartment deed. And the foreclosure notice, finalized. They had 14 days to vacate their home. Mom's face went from pale to red. You're really doing this? At your sister's wedding?" "You stole from me to pay for this wedding," I said. "It seemed fitting." Dad tried to grab my arm. "You can't do this. We're your parents. We raised you." Paula stepped forward. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step back. My client has every legal right to be here, and if you touch her, I'll have security remove you." People were starting to notice. Guests turning, whispering. A few of them had their phones out. Mom's voice got loud. "This is ridiculous. We're not leaving. You're tearing this family apart over money." "No," I said, and my voice carried across the room. "You tore this family apart when you forged my signature and sold my home without my permission. You tore this family apart when you spent 5 years treating me like an ATM. You tore this family apart when you called me laughing about stealing from me." "We didn't steal." I pulled out my phone. Hit play on the recording I'd saved. My mother's voice, crystal clear, filled the space. "Just keep sending money, honey. We need it for Camilla's wedding. You don't need that apartment anyway." The room went silent. Paula pulled out her own folder. "I represent Valentina Rodriguez. Everything she's telling you is legally documented. Her parents committed deed fraud, took $87,000 from her under false pretenses, and have been living off her mortgage payments for 3 years while claiming financial hardship. They are now in foreclosure proceedings, and if they don't vacate their property in 14 days, law enforcement will remove them." Dad's face turned purple. "This is a family matter. You can't—" "It stopped being a family matter when you committed fraud," I said. "You could have asked me for help. You could have been honest. Instead, you lied, you stole, and you laughed about it. So yes, I'm foreclosing. And yes, I'm doing it today at this wedding that you paid for with my money." Mom looked around wildly. "Someone help us. She's trying to make us homeless." But no one moved, because by now, enough people had heard. Enough people had seen, and the whispers had turned into murmurs of shock. Camilla appeared, still in her wedding dress. "What's going on?" "Ask them," I said, pointing at our parents. "Ask them where the $100,000 for your wedding really came from." She looked between us, tears already forming. "I don't understand." "They sold my apartment," I said. "The one I bought with my own money. Without my permission, without telling me. They forged my signature on the deed and sold it. That's where your wedding money came from. Theft." Jake appeared next to Camilla, putting his arm around her. He looked at my parents with something like disgust. "Is that true?" Dad tried to bluster. "We had every right." "You forged her signature," Jake said flatly. "My father's a lawyer. I know exactly what that means. You committed fraud." The wedding coordinator approached nervously. "Is there a problem?" "Yes," I said. "But I'm leaving now. You all enjoy the party. I hope it was worth $100,000. I turned to walk away. Paula followed. But before I left, I stopped. Turned back. "Oh, and one more thing. That foreclosure, it's not random. I'm the one who's been paying your mortgage for 3 years. Every single payment. The bank notified me when you stopped paying and I took over. Which means I'm not just foreclosing on your house. I'm foreclosing on the house I paid for. The house you lived in rent-free while spending my money on boats and vacations and weddings. So when you move out in 2 weeks, remember, you did this to yourselves." The silence that followed was deafening. We left. Behind us, I heard someone start crying. Multiple people, actually. The wedding was ruined, just like Camilla had feared. But it wasn't me who ruined it. It was the truth. 3 months have passed since the wedding. My parents lost their house. They're living in a small rental apartment now, the kind of place I lived in when I first moved out at 22. Camilla and Jake are still married, but barely. His family wants nothing to do with mine, and according to Aunt Rosa, they're in couples therapy trying to work through the betrayal and humiliation. As for me, I bought my parents' old house at the foreclosure auction. I got it for $245,000, well below market value. I'm renting it out now to a nice young family with 2 kids. The rent covers the mortgage and then some. I took that silver key, the one from my first apartment, and I had it framed. It hangs on my wall now, next to a photo of me from that day I got my keys, smiling and proud and alone. Underneath, I added a new photo. Me, standing in front of my parents' old house, my house now, holding the keys. Same smile, same pride. But this time, I'm not alone. I'm with Paula, who became not just my lawyer but my friend, and I'm with Aunt Rosa, who stood by me when everyone else called me heartless. I'm not heartless. I just finally learned that protecting yourself from people who hurt you, even if they're family, isn't cruel. It's survival. A few weeks ago, my mom sent me an email. Just one line. "Are you happy now?" I didn't respond, but if I had, I would have said, yes. For the first time in years, I actually am. Because I'm not carrying their weight anymore. I'm not funding their lifestyle. I'm not sacrificing my future for their present. I'm free. And that silver key on my wall, it doesn't open anything anymore. But it reminds me every single day. I built something once. They took it from me, and I built something even better in its place. They taught me a hard lesson. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. It's about honesty. It's about showing up for each other without keeping score. They failed every single test. But I didn't. I stood up for myself. I told the truth. I let them face the consequences of their choices. And you know what? I'd do it all again. If you've ever been treated like a bank account instead of a person, if your family ever made you feel guilty for setting boundaries, leave a comment. Tell me your story. Because I see you, I believe you, and you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll be back next week to talk about the messages I've been getting from people who've been through the same thing. Let's heal together, because we deserve better. And it's never too late to build the life you deserve, even if you have to do it alone.